In every legend, there is a truth. In every monster, a story. Welcome to the Fantasy Files. Episode 1. The Orc. Orcs are one of the most recognizable creatures in modern fantasy. They appear in movies, video games, novels, and tabletop games across the world. But the history of orcs is more recent than many people believe. The word orc has roots in ancient languages. In Latin, the word orcus referred to a god of the underworld. It was connected to death, darkness, and evil. In Old English, the word orkneys appeared in the poem Beowulf. It described evil spirits and monsters that lived far from human lands. These were not the orcs we know today, but they share a similar nature. The modern version of the orc was created in the 20th century. It came from one writer who changed fantasy forever. That writer was J R R Tolkien. Tolkien introduced orcs in his Middle-earth stories. They first appeared in The Hobbit and later played a larger role in The Lord of the Rings. His orcs were cruel, ugly, violent, and loyal to evil masters. Tolkien described orcs as twisted copies of elves. They were corrupted by dark forces and bred for war. They hated beauty, light, and freedom. Orcs in Tolkien's world served dark lords like Morgoth and Sauron. They were not just monsters. They represented the horror of war and the loss of what was once good. Tolkien never fully explained how orcs were created. He suggested several origins across his writings. Some said they were elves who had been tortured and changed. Others believed they were made from stone or mud by evil power. In all versions, they lacked free will and served evil without question. They were the perfect soldiers for dark rulers. The idea of the orc spread quickly after Tolkien's books became popular. Other authors and game designers began using orcs in their own worlds. But they often changed how orcs looked and behaved. Some made orcs more monstrous. Others gave them culture, language, and emotion. Over time, the orc became a flexible symbol for many kinds of stories. In the early days of fantasy games, orcs were used as simple enemies. They appeared in tabletop games like Dungeons & Dragons. They were often the first monsters players fought in a new campaign. In Dungeons & Dragons, orcs were described as brutal and warlike. They worshipped dark gods and lived in tribal societies. They were usually enemies of humans, elves, and dwarves. The orcs in Dungeons & Dragons helped spread their image across the world. They appeared in game books, novels, and artwork. Each version added new details to what an orc could be. In some editions, orcs were given gods, myths, and traditions. They became more than just evil creatures. They became a full culture within the fantasy world. This shift was important. It showed that orcs could be more than mindless enemies. They could have values, beliefs, and goals of their own. In the 1990s, a new wave of fantasy games brought orcs to a wider audience. Video games like Warcraft gave orcs a central role. They were no longer just villains. They became main characters. In the Warcraft series, orcs are a proud and complex race. They come from another world called Draenor. They have shamanistic traditions and a strong warrior code. The orcs in Warcraft were once peaceful, but they were corrupted by dark magic and used as pawns in a great war. This story mirrored Tolkien's themes, but added new ideas. Warcraft orcs are not purely evil. Many of them seek redemption and peace. They struggle with their violent past and try to build a better future. This version of the orc was popular with fans. It gave players a chance to see the world from the orc's point of view. It made them more human and more tragic. As Warcraft grew into a massive game and media franchise, its version of orcs became iconic. The green skin, tusks, and muscular build became standard. Other games and films copied the look. This version of the orc influenced movies like The Lord of the Rings film trilogy. Although based on Tolkien's books, the films borrowed the physical style of Warcraft's orcs. They were strong, brutal, and terrifying. The orc had become a global symbol of fantasy. It was used in films, games, books, and comics. But its meaning continued to shift depending on who used it and how. Some creators kept orcs as villains. Others made them heroes. Some questioned whether portraying orcs as evil was a form of bias or racism. These questions led to debates among writers, fans, and critics. They asked if orcs were meant to reflect real-world stereotypes. They asked if fantasy had a problem with race. This debate is ongoing. Some argue that orcs are just fictional creatures and should not be judged by real-world standards. Others believe fantasy should be more careful about how it shows other races and cultures. Some fantasy worlds responded to the debate by changing how orcs were written. They gave orcs more depth and complexity. They were shown with families, leaders, and emotions. In modern role-playing games, players can often choose to play as an orc. This means the orc must be a full character, not just an enemy. Games like Skyrim and Pathfinder offer these choices. When players take the role of an orc, they begin to see the world through orc eyes, explore orc culture, and face the way others treat them. This makes the orc experience more personal and more real. In literature, some authors have rewritten fantasy from the orc's point of view. They show orcs as survivors of war and victims of conquest. These stories challenge the idea that orcs are always the enemy. One famous example is the book series The Orcs by Stan Nichols. It tells the story of orc soldiers trying to survive in a world ruled by humans and elves. It paints the orcs as noble and misunderstood. Other stories have followed a similar path. They try to show that orcs are not born evil. They're shaped by their history, their leaders, and the way the world sees them. Despite these changes, some fans still prefer the classic image of the orc as a brutal enemy. They enjoy the simplicity of good versus evil. They see orcs as part of the tradition of heroic storytelling. Fantasy has always walked the line between myth and message. The orc is a symbol that can be used in many ways. It can be a monster, a soldier, a victim, or a hero. In popular culture, orcs continue to appear in new forms. They are in comic books, television shows, mobile games, and fan fiction. They are part of global fantasy culture. Social media and online art have expanded how people see orcs. Artists from around the world create new designs and styles. Some orcs are elegant and regal, others are strange or humorous. These fan creations show that the orc is no longer owned by any one creator. It is a shared idea that grows with each new version. Each culture adds something new to the legend. In Japan, orcs are often used in anime and manga. They appear in fantasy and adventure stories with their own rules and tropes. Sometimes they are comical, other times they are powerful and feared. In tabletop war games like Warhammer, orcs are reimagined as savage space fighters. They are loud, chaotic, and obsessed with war. These orcs are meant to be fun and wild. The Warhammer orcs are not evil in the usual sense. They're driven by instinct and joy for battle. They do not seek power or conquest. They just love to fight. This version has also become popular in video games and memes. Players enjoy the humor and madness of these orcs. They are dangerous, but also strangely lovable. In science fiction settings, orc-like races appear with different names. They may be aliens or mutants, but they carry the same traits of strength, aggression, and simple loyalty. This shows that the orc idea has moved beyond fantasy alone. It is now a flexible creature type. This can be used in many genres to tell many kinds of stories. In recent years, some creators have reconnected the orc with its mythological roots. They explore ancient folklore for deeper meaning. They link orcs to spirits, demons, and fallen gods. This approach adds mystery and weight to the orc image. It reminds us that fantasy often begins in old beliefs and forgotten tales. It gives the orc a sense of ancient power. At the same time, younger creators are reshaping orcs to reflect modern themes. They use orcs to explore identity, prejudice, and the struggle to be seen as more than a label. These stories can be powerful. They show orcs as outsiders looking for respect. They deal with rejection, anger, and the desire to belong. By doing this, the orc becomes a symbol for real human struggles. It speaks to anyone who has felt misunderstood or unfairly judged. It turns the fantasy creature into a mirror of real life. Orcs are now part of education too. Scholars have written essays and books about them. They study how orcs reflect society, history, and race. Some compare orcs to how enemies have been shown in wartime propaganda. They ask why orcs are often shown as primitive or violent. They look at what that says about us. These studies do not always agree. Some defend the traditional orc as a useful fiction. Others say it is time to rethink what orcs mean. The debate is ongoing. Despite all these changes, orcs remain popular. They are used in new games, books, and shows every year. Audiences still enjoy seeing them fight, speak, and grow. Part of the orc's appeal is its raw emotion. It represents strength, rage, pride, and survival. These traits are powerful in stories about war and conflict. Another reason orcs remain popular is because they are flexible. Writers and designers can use them as heroes or villains. They can be simple monsters or complex beings with deep stories. In some worlds, orcs are noble warriors with strong traditions. In others, they are violent raiders with no mercy. This wide range gives creators many ways to use them. Modern fantasy often blends these versions together. An orc may begin as a villain but grow into a hero, or they may live in a society that struggles with its past. Some orc stories focus on family and honor. Others focus on revenge and rebellion. Each one adds something new to the overall picture. In television and film, orcs are now more detailed and expressive. They are created with advanced effects and deep performances. This makes them feel more real to the audience. The Lord of the Rings films by Peter Jackson showed orcs as terrifying enemies. They looked monstrous and cruel, but their design was partly inspired by the orcs of video games. Games like Warcraft and Elder Scrolls helped shape the modern look of orcs. Green skin, sharp teeth, heavy armor, and deep voices became the standard. These traits are now expected by many fans. World of Warcraft in particular played a huge role in making orcs sympathetic. Its orcs had a tragic backstory. They were once peaceful, but were corrupted and turned into weapons. Players could choose to play as orcs. They could explore orc cities, speak with orc leaders, and fight for orc values. This gave fans a new connection to orc culture. Some players chose orcs because they liked their strength. Others chose them because they respected their code of honor. Many felt proud to be part of the orc clans. The success of Warcraft helped bring orcs to a new generation. It showed that even fantasy monsters can have depth and purpose. It helped remove the idea that orcs are always evil. In the years since, many games have followed this path. They let players be orcs, with full stories and emotions. They let orcs be more than just enemies. Books and shows have also explored this idea. They give orcs friendships, goals, and struggles. They show that orcs can feel love, loss, and hope. This change in storytelling reflects a change in the audience. People want more complex stories. They want to understand the reasons behind every action. This has helped orcs grow as a symbol. They're no longer just a threat to be stopped. They can be a way to explore hard questions. Why do people fight? Can someone change their path? Can a person be judged fairly by their past? Orcs can help answer these questions through fantasy. They let writers talk about violence, control, and forgiveness. They let players and viewers face these ideas in a safe way. Even with all this depth, the orc still remains exciting. It brings danger and drama to any world. Its power and rage give it a strong place in battle scenes. Orcs also bring energy and emotion. They are rarely quiet or calm. They shout, charge, laugh, and cry with full force. That is why they work so well in games and movies. They leave a strong impression. They add life to every scene. As fantasy continues to grow, orcs will stay with it. It may change in look and meaning, but they will always be part of the story. Some orcs will be monsters. Some will be heroes. Some will be something in between. This is the true power of the orc. It began as a shadow in ancient poems, became a tool of evil in the hands of a dark lord. Then it grew. It became a symbol of war and survival. It became a voice for strength and pain. Today, the orc is whatever the creator needs it to be. It can speak for rage or hope. It can break or build. The history of the orc is still being written. It lives in games, books, shows, and minds. It will keep changing with us. And that is what makes it more than just a creature. The orc is now a part of us, a reflection of our fears, our strength, and our story.